Well, time now for our focus on the work that is being done by the National Irrigation Commission. This is a feature that they have with us the first Thursday of every month. And this morning, our focus is on the Southern Plain Agricultural Development Project. It is called SPAD. Wayne Williams is project manager and consultant with the Southern Plain Agricultural Development Project, and he now joins us to shed some light on what has been happening on the ground and what they expect from this particular project. Mr. Williams, good morning and welcome to Farm Talk. How are you?
Good morning, Ms. McKinder. Thank you for having me. Good morning to your listeners as well.
Good to have you on with us. So first of all, the Southern Plain Agricultural Development Project. What exactly is the SPAD project?
All right, so the SPAD project is actually a project that's been funded through the United Kingdom Caribbean Infrastructure Fund, and it's being administered by the Caribbean Development Bank. It's about £16.7 million, and the grant is to be used through the NIC, the National Irrigation Commission, to fund two main projects, and both projects are in the agricultural sector, in the Clarendon and in the St. Catherine sector, to implement some irrigation programs, to rehab some farm roads, and to put in some agricultural marketing systems for farmers and persons in those two communities.
Well, this is rather interesting. So this is a project that is being undertaken by the National Irrigation Commission, but it is clearly more than just water that it involves. Break this down for us. I think I want to take a look first of all at the parish of St. Catherine. What is going to be happening in the parish of St. Catherine as part of this project?
Right. So with regards to the St. Catherine project, we're going to be implementing an agri-park. Well, instituting some irrigation systems, and the water from that system is going to be provided by the Rio Cobre River. It's going to be an offtake that flows through some reservoirs to a canal to an agri-park that's going to be developed there. That particular system is actually going to be complementing that agri-park that's already there. There's an agri-park in that area that's currently being managed by the AIC, Agri-Invest Corporation, and there are also partners. Pardon me?
Is that Amity Hall?
That's correct. Amity Hall, Bridgepen. That's correct.
Okay.
And so in that area, there's going to be about 480 hectares that's going to be converted to an agri-park.
Okay, so it's a new agri-park that is being established, but the water that you're bringing in will not only serve that new one, but the existing one. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. That's correct. They're going to benefit from the system as well. That's correct.
All right, excellent. What will this mean for the farmers in the area? Because clearly irrigation is critical.
Right, that's correct. Because as a matter of fact, this particular project, not just focusing on infrastructure works, we're also looking at developing value chains and marketing programs for the farmers in the community. And these farmers that are already there in the Amity region will also benefit from those agricultural production and marketing systems, not just the ones that are going to be on the new agri-park. And so we work with AIC, we work with RADA, and we work with the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries to ensure that programs are in place for farmers to have end users, to have buyers, and to introduce them to things like climate smart agriculture, and to improve and enhance agricultural activity in that area.
Okay. Now you mentioned the AIC, which means that you're working very closely with AIC. I know that the farmers who are listening, they're going to say, all right, so how do I get involved with this? Do I go through the National Irrigation Commission or through the AIC?
Right. So the National Good question. So the National Irrigation Commission provides the water to the agri-parks. And as you know, they're actually looking at systems such as renewable energy to try to get the cost of water down to the agri-park itself. But in terms of the actual operation on the agri-park itself, that's actually being handled by the AIC. So the farmers themselves will have to apply to the AIC. They actually have a leasing program in place. And they work with the farmers. For those who may not have the wherewithal, they work with them to try to get them up to speed. For farmers who have been there for a while, who have actually been in the business for a while, they work with them as well at that level. So it really works through the entire spectrum for persons who have never been in farming, for persons who have been in farming, and everybody in between, to basically get agricultural programs up and running as quickly as possible, as well as to implement marketing systems for them as well.
Excellent. So it's the whole 9 yards.
The whole 9 yards, that's correct.
All right. You also mentioned renewable energy. Tell us how that will factor in this project.
Right. So one of the things that we're doing as well in both parks, both the Clarendon and St. Catherine Park, is to build some marketing facilities, park houses, and so on. With regards to that type of an operation, of course, it's very energy intensive. And so we intend to install solar panels and any kind of energy efficiency programs and systems that can help to reduce the energy consumption and, of course, energy cost as well. With regards to the water supply, getting the water from the reservoir to the farms, that also is very energy intensive. And we're looking at the possibility of installing some renewable energy systems there as well to help to reduce the cost of water to the farmers.
And I would imagine that the National Irrigation Commission now would have a plan in place to ensure that the water is used and managed very efficiently, because that is very critical when you think of what is going on now with climate change.
Absolutely, and the park itself is being designed to ensure that the water that gets to the farmers is done in a very efficient manner. We look at things such as drip systems mainly. There are some sprinklers as well. And we also work with RADA, in a sense, to train the farmers on climate-smart agricultural practices, so they themselves will use the water more efficiently as well.
All right. Now, of course, all of this is being done through a grant, but when it comes to the point where the farmers are getting involved, there will be a cost to the farmers, I would imagine, because one, they are going to be going through the AIC, that is one thing. And even though the National Irrigation Commission, the water that is provided through them is heavily subsidized, it still comes at a cost, right?
It still comes at a cost. That's absolutely correct. So National Irrigation will set its tariffs, and the Agro-Investment Corporation will have their leasing rates for the lots. And these are basically designed to try to enhance and improve productivity. And so we work very closely with the farmers, as I mentioned earlier, for them to be able to use the water efficiently, but also we try to get it to them at the least cost as possible.
And that is very important. We want the farmers to understand that this is also an investment for them. So this is not coming to them free. A grant is setting it up, but it will cost them to invest. And I'm of the mindset, Mr. Williams, that if people if they have a hand in the investment, then they take better care of equipment, they pay greater attention to it so that it is a success. So it's a partnership, right?
Yes, I'm glad that you're making a point, because we do have community meetings and stakeholder meetings within the communities from time to time, and we do stress that point. This is actually a business. And yes, the funds are grant funds, but the project going forward, once the product is turned over, it has to sustain itself. And so the farmers obviously have to be able to meet their end of the deal, in that they do have to meet their payments, for lease or for water. But the good thing about it is that the AIC and RADA works with them very closely to ensure that they try to be as efficient as possible, help them in terms of crops that should be planting, crop rotation, market access, and in some instances even try to find export markets for them as well. To try to make sure that they're sustainable in the long term.
Okay, so if they don't have a plan, if they're coming to the table, but they say, listen, I'm interested in doing this, but I don't have a plan, I would imagine that AIC and RADA, they're helping them with that as well. So it's a comprehensive plan that will take into consideration the lease arrangement, the access to the water, the kinds of crops that they will plant, and the conditions under which they will do it.
Exactly, and AIC is really charged with helping them to develop. In some instances, as I mentioned earlier, they do have to have a business plan, and the AIC will help them in terms of actually drafting a business plan in some instances if they don't have to do so for themselves. Work with them in just getting started. The grant program actually has some funds, a small amount of funds that they make available on grant to the farmers themselves, who then have to match whatever grant they receive once they qualify, and that helps them to complete the business plans and to get some of the equipment that they need in place and so on. So you do have that facility available through the grant as well, to farmers and to people who qualify.
I wish you could see my face now, because I'm smiling. I'm thinking to myself, but this is absolutely amazing. So,
yes.
But that also speaks, Mr. Williams, to how efficiently you're going to have to use these funds. Because if you have to set aside some of the funds as a grant for the farmers themselves, then that means that the money that you're getting, you have to make sure that you're hitting all your targets.
Exactly, and that's why we work closely with institutions such as the AIC, and we really do have the expertise in these three stakeholder bodies, the NIC, AIC, and RADA, right from the start. So it's not that you're going in there by yourself and trying to figure out, what steps to take.
Yes.
And they work very closely with you right from the start. And we do have large commercial farmers who will be able to access the property as well. And we have lots that are actually allocated for small farmers, for youth, for persons with disabilities, for female-owned farmers. There are actually lots that are allocated for those persons as well. And we also have lots that are allocated for large and small to commercial farmers as well.
Oh, this sounds very exciting. And of course, before we end this conversation, you need to give us some more specifics in terms of how people can get additional information. But we're on the break, so let me clear that. And then when we come back, let us turn the spotlight on what you're doing with the Parnassus project in Clarendon.
You're listening to Power 106.
Here on Power 106 FM, we're inside our feature from the National Irrigation Commission, Irrigation Making the Difference in Agriculture. Our focus today on the Southern Plain Agricultural Development Project. My guest, is Wayne Williams, Project Manager and Consultant with the Southern Plain Agricultural Development Project. He has already walked us through what is going to be happening in St. Catherine. There's one agri-park already established there, Amity Hall, and they're working now with Amity and the communities of Amity and Bridgepen. Another is going to be established, and this, of course, will benefit the small farmer, the large farmer, the in-between farmer. They have lots that have been set aside for the members of the disabled community. Persons with disabilities is a better way of putting it. We also have women and young people who this is absolutely exciting news that is being shared with us this morning. And so now, Mr. Williams, let us turn the spotlight on Clarendon, a more familiar project, because we've been hearing quite a bit about what is going to happen in Parnassus. So walk us through the scope of the project there in Parnassus, Clarendon.
Right. So with regards to the Parnassus project now, the water that goes to that agri-park that's going to be developed there will be coming from wells, from underground water supplies. And we have just completed drilling 3 wells there. They're actually producing the yields that were anticipated. As a matter of fact, they're producing a little bit better than we anticipated. So the water supply will come from those 3 wells. And once again, they're going to be powered either through the JPS power supply system or some renewable system and the water sent to the agri-parks. So with regards to Parnassus, that's going to be about 380 hectares. Those wetlands that were previously owned by the Sugar Company of Jamaica, so they were actually under sugarcane farming for quite some time. And so that region is a little bit different from the St. Catherine region, because now we're going to be moving from sugarcane and prior to that banana farming and going into these types of crop farming for farmers. And once again, we'll have a similar type of a system there. For Parnassus, we're going to be allocating lots similar to the way that we allocate them at the Amity Bridgepen Agri-Park. And we're also going to be working with large and small farmers in the Clarendon region as well. And we also have to take into consideration a number of variables in the Parnassus community. For example, the area has been known for flooding from time to time, so we have to try to put systems in place for drainage, in addition to ensuring that we rehab the roads to meet certain requirements and work with the farmers in that area, more or less from the ground up in that case, because in this case, these are farmers who have not really been open to working on an agri-park before. This is going to be the first time for many of them. And so the training, once again, will be coordinated through RADA, Farmer Field School programs through RADA. And the support is also going to be provided by AIC, who does the park management, and of course the water will be supplied from NIC.
I want to touch on the trenching and the drainage system and the roads a little bit, because that is critical.
Right.
This is not just important information for this particular project, but generally, putting in good drains is something that we need to have the farmers focus on.
Yes.
Will the training involve how you build drains as well, how the farmers themselves can build drains?
Absolutely. So the drainage systems that are being designed now, we actually had a project just before the start of the SPAT program that actually designed the drainage and the road network in both agro-parks. And they spent quite a bit of time working with flood control engineers as to how best to sort of move the water. If the water, for example, is projected to come from the river, which flows near to the park, they're designed that are built into to channel the water from the river. And if it's going to be coming from rains, we also have to be able to take that into consideration as well. So the flood control systems are very carefully designed, working as close as possible with other persons within the community. They understand that they also have a role to play. It's not just water and flood control on the park itself, but also even around the park. And so the AIC will be working with communities around the park to ensure they understand that they also have a role to play in flood control systems as well.
Okay. Now, the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, clearly a very important partner in this. I know that RADA has been involved in the fixing of farm roads. Are they going to be the agency responsible for the roads in this, or is that a project that you have sorted out in terms of an independent contractor?
Right, that's an independent contractor, but the team also included comments and work with RADA just to get their input as well, but also used guidelines that RADA actually has in the country right now for rural farm roads and rural farm road maintenance. The Farmer Field School program is really the main contributing element from the RADA team, and for the park itself. And of course, the AIC will then be the ones who work with RADA, work with the engineers going forward to ensure that the roads are properly maintained and the drainage systems operate as they're designed to.
Okay, so it really is a collaborative effort where each agency is tasked with a different responsibility that they have to undertake to ensure the success of the project, essentially.
Absolutely, and we also ensure that we try to institute as much best practices in agriculture as possible with these agencies. So, for example, I mentioned earlier that we're going to be setting up park houses and marketing facilities at both agri-parks. But we work with both agencies to institute what is called Global GAP, which is Global Good Agricultural Practices in Agricultural agribusiness at those park houses, to make sure that the produce that comes from those park houses are fit for export. And the agencies that I mentioned earlier play a very, very, very strong role in ensuring that those systems are maintained going forward.
Okay. Now, Mr. Williams, the success of the program hinges not just on the facilities that you have put in, but how it is that the entire project is managed going forward. What do you have in place to ensure efficacy, to ensure sustainability?
All right, and that's actually, when we talk about sustainability in agriculture, it really is a community effort. And so we work very closely, not just with the RADAs and AICs, but also with the local community groups as well. Local parish managers, we work with Social Development Corporation, youth in farming from the Ministry of Agriculture and so on. And all of their best agricultural practices are used right from the beginning, so persons are fully aware. It's like you come into a system and you're taught from the very first day exactly what these best practices are. And each of those community groups will basically lend a hand in ensuring that the farmers are trained accordingly. And then in order to sustain the program going forward, so sustainability is obviously a key initiative. The grant also provides for the purchase of certain equipment. For example, it purchases tractors that may be needed to help to maintain the roads going forward. We look at buying things like GIS equipment for the NIC so they can continue with their mapping around the area. We look at buying things for drain cleaning equipment and those type of things, just to ensure that there's sustainability built into the program.
All right, excellent. And of course, we talk about the ownership of the project, the farmers themselves, because they have to ensure that it is a success. If it is not a success, it really is on their shoulders as well to ensure that they follow all of the advice that is given to them. But of course, we also want to know what timelines you have set for both projects in terms of the completion of the facilities.
Right. So the terminal date for the grant itself is June 2023, June 30th of 2023, and we're trying to work hard to ensure that we're able to achieve that. We work with all the members of the community just to let them know what the timelines are, if we're going to be able to meet the ones that we set out internally, if we're going to have to speed it up, we're going to need them to help us to speed it up, and so on. So in terms of a terminal date, it's set for June 30th, 2023.
Okay. One question. For both projects, are you doing soil testing, particularly for that Clarendon project, which, as you pointed out, for years was used for sugar cane? And I would imagine that it therefore means that there are particular kinds of nutrients that would have to be added back to the soil because of the monoculture that was being practiced there.
Absolutely, and that's a good question, because I mentioned earlier the grant that was used to fund the feed-in. It's kind of the feasibility and design phase for the project. That was done on a grant that's just being completed now, and they actually did soil testing, both in terms of ensuring the types of soil that are available right through the agro-park, but also for geotechnical surveys as well, because we're going to be building structures on the land. So we need to ensure that we have a better understanding a good understanding of the soil types and the loading that can be placed on the property as well.
All right. And finally, for those farmers who are interested, what should they do? Who should they be reaching out to?
Well, we do have, AIC does have parish managers and zone managers in those two areas, in the Panassos area and in the Amity Bridgepen area. So the farmers can reach out to AIC. That will be the first point of contact. But they can also reach out to the zone managers and the parish managers for NIC as well. And NIC actually operates parish managing offices in both areas. But generally, we also have a website for persons in the wider broader community who may want to know about it, the NICJamaica.com website. And NIC is also available on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube as well.
Exciting. I'm very excited about this, and I certainly look forward to engaging in more conversation about it. That's all the time we have, though, Mr. Williams. Thank you so very much. Very, very good project to get off the ground for agriculture here in Jamaica, and I'm hoping that going forward you can convince the organization that has provided the grant to do more, so that you can do more of these kinds of projects in other areas in the country. I have a feeling that some people are going to get jealous.
Absolutely. So there's another project that's being done similar to this one at St. Elizabeth, but yes, yeah, you're absolutely correct.
All right. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mackenzie.
All right, take care. Wayne Williams there, project manager and consultant with the Southern Plain Agricultural Development Project, known as SPAD for short. And boy, that's a lot of excitement. 2023 is when they're looking at, in terms of the end of the project. And farmers, if you're interested, do what he says. Reach out to the AIC, reach out to the National Irrigation Commission. And of course, we thank the National Irrigation Commission for engaging us in conversation this morning about this particular project. Let us just state that word from studio, and then we'll wrap up the program.